Hello and namaskar, everybody. In a series of, you know, discussions, I'm going to focus on this post-coronavirus world, how it will look like, especially in the Indian subcontinent, and and the and whenever the world changes, you always look at the biggest point of disruption and the points of stability, and then you figure out how the points of stability are going to react to the points of destruction. So, two major threats in the neighborhood of China, if you look at the Indian subcontinent, is Pakistan, which looks like is about to explode and sort of implode. You can use both the words interchangeably for Pakistan. And as I started to think about why is it that it's only Pakistan and not so much some other areas. So two biggest points of, out of all the nations that are going to suffer big time, that come to mind is North Korea and Pakistan in that part of the world. And why only these two and not others, right? This question becomes sort of important to ponder about. I'll make a separate video on North Korea, but I think the reasons behind both of them is the same, that both of them are really not nations, don't deserve to be a nation because they don't have any cultural, civilizational context to them, and both are almost artificially created in the post-colonial era. So one of my theses is that as this shock, wipes out, changes the world order, the nations that are going to get reformatted, re-architected, reclubbed with their original civilizations are the nations that got formed post-colonial era, which is from 1940 to 1970, and where artificial boundaries were created and really did not have any civilizational or cultural context to hold them as a nation. So in Iraq, in the Middle East, if you see, Iraq probably will not exist. A lot of portions of Iraq will get dissolved either into Turkey, northern area of Mosul and all will come. Kurdistan, the southern part, will get absorbed into Iran, probably the Iranian majority part of the Iraq. So Iraq, of the just Euphrates and Tifrit, those Tigris river delta, probably will just shrink into that Sunni world, and that might be called something else. So that Middle East map is going to get reformatted, re-architected. All those straight lines that French and British drew after Second World War is not going to last. A lot of African nations, especially Northern Africa and Central and Western Africa, probably will change as well. And then in the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan and India once again will probably roll back to the old geographical boundaries of India. And then in that Korean peninsula, probably North Korea will not exist. That will change. And the whole South China Sea and the nations, Indonesia, Malaysia, they probably will exist. What will happen to Cambodia, Vietnam probably will do better and they will stabilize. But these are the major countries that I think in Sub-Saharan Africa, Saharan Africa, Middle East, and then the Indian subcontinent. South America probably will not see much changes. There might be some, but I have not paid much attention to South American countries, their stability, their politics, so can't comment on it. So just coming down to the Indian subcontinent, and I think the basic premise is that any nation that got created post World War II by colonial powers, artificially imposed on the world to kind of fulfill their post-colonial era stronghold, those nations are going to fold. Pakistan comes at the top of the pile on this, even though they have nuclear bombs, and I hear quite a few comments as if the nuclear bomb is going to save them just like Allah has saved them. None of that is going to matter. And why is Pakistan the basket case of failure, and why is it going to fail? Let me give you some of the root causes that I think. One is that for any nation, just like for any individual, you have to have a very strong value system. And from value system comes out your strategic thinking, and from strategic thinking comes out your tactical thinking. And if you don't have a strong value system or civilizational context, you probably are not going to do well as an individual, and it's true with the nation as well. So if you look at Pakistan, it really did not exist anywhere, not even in thinking or ideology, till in like 1930s, when Muhammad Iqbal or Allama Iqbal, wouldn't they call it, coined this term called Pakistan, the land of pure, because he was just one generation convert, and his forefathers, even his father and all, probably were Hindus, got converted to Islam, traveled to Europe, came back, and was trying to prove, more holy than the Daos, trying to prove himself more Muslim than the Middle Eastern Muslims, wanted to create a land of pure in his imagination. That imagination got funded by the Nawabs of Central India, UP, Bihar, Bengal. And they hired Jinnah, who was another convert by a generation or two ago, and they both probably played into the hands of Britishers. So Britishers, to create the concept, wanted to create an artificial framework that had a theological background to it, sort of some political oomph to it, and of course funded by the corrupt Nawabs. And this whole scaffolding of Pakistan got created. As the Second World War was raging, Britishers became very sure they had to pay huge debt. They couldn't hold on to the Indian subcontinent as their colony. And in their divide and rule policy, what they wanted to shape the world in post-colonial era, they created Pakistan. So on both ends of India, East and West Pakistan got created. And I think the whole idea why Islamists and Britishers got together is because they had a different scenario playing out. What they were thinking, that post Second World War, the world will stabilize, and the Muslims and Islam wanted to regain its Mughal era glory in the subcontinent and their hegemony. So they thought they'll be able to squeeze India from both sides, and once again, as the population increases in the Indian province, they'll be able to reclaim India back of old Mughal era. If you think about India and Indian population, if you have Pakistan on both sides, which is Bangladesh and India, and in the Indo-Gangetic plains, the Muslim population increases, which it already is increasing, then it just becomes one big swath Islamic territory. But that scenario did not play out, because this artificially created Pakistan and Bangladesh became a begging bowl basket case country from day one, survived on the arms and funding and ammunition that was funded by either America or British or their stooges, because they were fighting the global ideological battle with the communists and whatnot. So these two states, East Pakistan and West Pakistan, or India, or Pakistan, Bangladesh, and let's just call it Pakistan, became a hired gun, and anybody could hire them to fulfill their agenda, just like North Korea became a hired gun for China to push their agenda. So the issue with these artificially created states are, since they do not have a historical, cultural, civilizational underpinnings or context, they're unable to think on their own. Their sense of insecurity always makes them to run around and look for every imaginary thread of support that they can, as long as it lets them survive for a little while. And what happens, since there is no political, civilizational value system underneath, the elite at the top becomes corrupt, because they start to think on their own. They all get the sense that we are not going to survive as a nation, so the survival instinct for family and their tribe becomes so important that they become and start to hoard the assets for their own survival, and rest of the country goes to dog. The basket case of Pakistan. You look at their United Nations Development Index, their Human Index metrics, in every sphere, they're at the bottom of the bed. Corruption is at the top of the charts. Military and mullah and the elite families who forms their political class are fighting among themselves to sort of get the pound of flesh, whoever can get the most. Military is a working class, right? They get paid by the state. If the state doesn't have money, they're not going to get paid. So the military has almost created this pseudo instability factory of jihadis, and they blackmail that jihadi using that jihadi mechanism that they have created. The world tries to fund them. They create a facade as if they are fighting the jihad and they're on the side of stability and whatnot. But they're the biggest factor of instability. They support jihad so they can fund it and blackmail. They can blackmail the West, get funded, and based on that fund, the military survives. Because on their own, Pakistan does not generate enough revenue to be able to sustain as a country. And whatever revenue they generate, gets eaten up by the corrupt and whoever can lay their hand on whatever assets and run away with it. So you see Pakistanis all over the world. Whoever can get out gets out. Nobody's thinking of the country, and whoever gets out does not want to go back in or contribute in any form or shape. So that story between the military and how military has created this sense of instability, and then now that they have nuclear bomb, they have a bigger asset to blackmail the world, and it's almost like they have put the nuclear bomb to their head and put a gun of jihad on everybody's forehead. And the world has sort of entertained that blackmail jihad because the global powers, they always want to gain bigger power share and market share around the world. They were using Pakistan to sort of counter India because West was always thinking that India is pro-Russia, so Russia, communism, this and that. Now India opened up 91. It has become very successful commercial economy and has been, sort of, in spite of stupidities of Congress all along, there is enough depth and gravitas in the India culture and population that they haven't been hijacked by idiot politicians, even though there are forays of idiots all along. So 80s was a lost decade, 90s except for Atal Bihari Vajpayee here and there was a lost decade. Then Manmohan Singh came, even though they are run by a stupid Congress, but they did some decent, half decent things. And then of course with Modi at the helm now and BJP, India is suddenly starting to look a lot more stable, a lot more sort of vibrant economically, and everybody wants to dance with India. So with India gaining that sort of gravitas around the world, Pakistan's blackmails are starting to diminish. The power of their blackmail starting to diminish, and now they're starting to see that they were trying to coattail China now, and they were, as West was disbanding Pakistan, Pakistan found a leash of life in China. But what China has done with coronavirus, now China tanking, and when a large ship tanks or sinks, all the small boats in the periphery also sinks. So Pakistan is looking extremely vulnerable. I've been seeing a lot of their news programs and reading. It looks like their response to coronavirus is nobody's happy. Imran Khan is faltering and falling apart. I mean, he was dumb upstairs anyways. And now military and mullahs are sort of pulling at each other. They don't know which way to go. Should they save lives or save economy? Now, economy was always that belonged to the rich class. Yeah, this 70% of the population is daily wage earners. Now, as the economy has shut down or partial shutdown or whatever they call it, the labor class, the wage class, as they start to go hungry, the rebellion is on hand, and the rebellion and you're starting to see that the attacks that they are doing in Kashmir, the killings that they are doing in Balochis and sort of PTM leaders. Military is starting to act like the last day of judgment is near, and like fire from the hip on all sides, because they can see the writing on the wall. So whenever somebody is about to sink, they throw their hand in water and sort of try to swim, even though they know they're going to die. So same thing is going to happen with Pakistan as it faces more heat, more pressure, self-induced, encouraged by the West, and West just like nobody. If you are stupid, your people will take advantage of you and then leave you to die when the time comes, and that's the sorry state of Pakistan now. So whatever they did, they played along. They sort of mistrued people, throwing them lifeline as if they are permanent friends, and they were not. Everybody who could make money in Pakistan get out, they have gotten out, and now you go back to pre-47 or from 1930 to 47, why Pakistan turned out to be this way. The primary reason being they tugged their historical sort of connection to Muhammad bin Qasim, who was a bloody dacoit, exploiter, who was nothing but a henchman of some Saudi ruler who was sent back to fetch their Muhammad's family, who had taken refuge in the Sindh area. And they say, oh, before then there was nothing in the subcontinent. Our whole history starts from Muhammad bin Qasim. So when you're going to lay your cultural foundation to such a shallow, stupid value system, what do you expect to be? Right? You will end up being Pakistan. And when you disown your entire history, culture, and civilization, what was so rich, and you just become Arabized, and within 30, 40 years, you start to look for that you're going to be intellectual master, you're not going to be. Your core value system, your historical context, who you are, your identity, and your pillars of identity, unless and until they are serene, pure, and are based in some sort of solid ethics, that rest of the country and population is going to follow it. So the extreme form of corruption, the jihadiness, one guy looting other, blackmailing the world, all the negative traits that you don't want to teach your kids, you find in the country of Pakistan. Now, and if people say, oh, but people are nice. Now, tell me one thing. If the country is exhibiting a certain trait, how can the people in the country be nice? Unless and until each and every in the country. So if country is stupid, how can the country become stupid? Like in your body, if one cell starts to mutate, you get cancer. So you can say, oh no, he's nice, but his body has just one cancer cell. No, slowly the cancer will spread and the whole body is going to become cancerous. Same thing has happened with Pakistan. The whole Muhammad bin Qasim attitude, even though they keep saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, they do 5 times namaz, there are 30,000 or 100,000 mosques, everybody goes 5 times. But when you are going to be imitating Muhammad bin Qasim, his value system is going to become, through osmosis, into permeate in the society. And you are seeing that all the Pakistanis have become Muhammad bin Qasim's inheritors of his value system. And if Muhammad bin Qasim, no matter how good of a guy he was, if he killed Muhammad, their founder's family, how good could he be? And if you are killing your own founder's family, what does it say about you? Right? So you follow a religion which was founded by Muhammad, but you killed all his family wherever you could find them and hound them. But you say, oh, he's our, peace be upon him, and PBUH, whatever they write behind Muhammad Sahib. Like, what sort of idiocracy is this? It's like, say, I like Ram, but I want to kill all his followers, all his family members, and I hate them. So why are you loving him? Why do you love Ram that if you don't love his progeny, his family? His nephew was killed, his kids were killed, and his kids had taken hiding in Sindh, and Raja Dahir had given them protection, and that's how Muhammad bin Qasim came to kill him. So you get where I'm heading with this whole thing. It's like, if your value system is hollow, corrupt, shallow, bastardized, you will end up creating bastardized subsequent generations. You can't create a clean set of attributes from some extremely corrupt, original contents. And that's the story of Pakistan. Now, if they could have thought that, hey, we were as Indians as the Indians in India, and we were formed in before 47, and accepted the same value system that India always has, but the problem then becomes that Indian value system is very Sanatan driven, very Hindu driven, very Buddhist driven, which is nothing else but talks of peace, tolerance, Vasudev Kutumbakam, and all those positive attributes of humanity. But then if they could have done it, then they would have become like, why did we become Pakistan then? So this dichotomy of creating an artificial state when there was no rationale for it, and the Britishers forced it, the world is facing the world is facing the results of that strategic mistake that the colonial powers made at that time. So whatever the humanity faces, it's because the seeds were sown in the past without thinking through the moral imperative of this strategic decision. And that's a lesson I've learned in life, and I always tell everyone, is the morality behind your strategic reasons. If it's not positive, it's not sound, it's not humanistic, it'll have a negative outcome. Pakistan is a basket case of that. Now, no matter how much Pakistan thinks that they can survive, they will thrive, they'll have nuclear bomb, they have largest army. I mean, they give you all these stupid reasoning behind why they deserve to be a nation. But if you weigh that reasoning on the moral ground and the strategicness of it, none of it succeeds. And even this, we are geographically so important, we are at the cusp of these 5 countries. But some of these countries have artificial boundaries that just got created 100 years ago. Before then, geography still existed. And the Bharat as a civilization existed all the way from Kandahar. In fact, till 1000, the Raja and the kings was ruled by Shahs, who were Hindu dynasty in Afghanistan. So civilizational boundaries and the cultural boundaries of countries are more important and more sustainable than these artificial nation state boundaries. And the world has to rethink this model again. That, by carving out small political nations and by dismantling the civilizational constructs, you're not doing any favor. You're just creating bigger mess for subsequent generations to deal with. And the world has seen that all the post-colonial countries that were created that didn't deserve to get created because they did not have any civilizational construct underneath it. You're facing the brunt of it. Look at Iraq. Northern part is Kurdish, middle part is Sunni, the southern part is Shia dominated. You created this artificial country. You put Saddam Hussein, sort of a Baath party head in the 60s there. Look what he did to Middle East. Never stayed peaceful. Yes, those who created it, they exploited those fissures and extracted all the oils. Look at Saudi Arabia. It's a bloody desert, sort of tribes who founded oil and made money, created artificial cities. All of them are going to fall apart now. All of them are going to come crashing down as the post-corona world changes, oil demand crashes. So the fate is going to be same of all these countries who didn't deserve to be there, got created, artificially prompted. And every intellectual who looks like sharply dressed on television debates and whatnot, when they talk about and justify that they deserve to exist, it's like, what are you smoking? But you have to be smart enough to see between the lines, think through, and be as avid student of history and sort of culture, civilizations and whatnot, and be able to put together what is sustainable and what is not. And the whole idea of sustainability is so important. Just like in sustainable business models, people call sustainable value system. There are sustainable states as well. There are sustainable countries as well. There are sustainable societies. And to sustain countries, societies, one of the things is their core value system, their core model, how they see the world. If that's not pure, it's not based on sustainable principles of universe and humanity, it's not going to survive for long. That's why I say even Chinese Communist Party model is not going to survive for long, because it doesn't sync up with the nature's model of sustenance. And it's artificially top-down driven and whatnot. So you will see turmoil in China, whether it happens now or it happens in 20 years. But at least the Communist Party model will not survive. They'll have to rethink their governance model, which is more in line of peace, harmony, sustainability, not hegemony, not blackmailing, not negative traits of dacoity and stupidity and trying to fight asymmetric war and trying to look smart when you're not. Nature loves harmony, nature loves balance, nature loves symmetry, nature loves sustenance. And any society that doesn't imbibe these value system will not survive in its current form and shape. Post coronavirus impact, post the shock of this World War III, the biogerm warfare. And even the capitalistic model in the West, as in hardcore capitalistic attitude that America came to thrive on the last 30, 40, 50 years, is not going to survive on. It has to become more humanistic, it has to become more egalitarian, it has to become more taking care of each other and sharing, and that's the only way. You have to come to the center. You can't be extreme on one side or the other. And that's why I always feel the Indian model, the old civilizations, if they have survived for thousands of years, you have to double click and think about what made them click and survive for thousands of years. They must have seen thousands of such shocks, what we are facing now, but they came out of it. They stayed relevant. They stayed vibrant intellectually, spiritually, and physically. What is that makes them that way? Unless and until you latch on to those attributes and then you identify out of them the attributes of survival, sustenance, and progress, and the newer or other societies don't start to resonate with them, you will never be able to reach a good analysis. So I'll stop there, but my assessment says Pakistan will not survive. It's going to tank, whether it tanks now or in 5 years. Give it this decade as the changes unfold. This coronavirus is breaking the back of their political order, their social order, their tribal order, and the various states looks like are already positioning themselves as to post-Pakistan. So you're starting to see the rich political class in Sindh is starting to know that Pakistan is going to fold, then what is going to happen to Sindh. So the Bhuttos and Shahs and all, they were all Hindus before, so some of them might even culturally start to align with India. Punjabis are doing the same way, and of course Pakhtuns have been trying for a long time. Gilgit-Baltistan and all, as India has already issued a notice to Pakistan that don't even touch it, it's part of India. So India is going to make a move in the whole Pakistani occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan region. So what will happen to their nuclear bomb? I don't think they have the world will let them use them. They'll end up surrendering them or doing a bargain, and most of the military guys will take the bargain and head to the greener shores or pastures. And who will end up paying the price is that 80% gullible, 99% gullible Pakistanis who were given this morphine of La ilaha illallah and Muhammad bin Qasim, and they'll end up becoming the lost 5 generations from 1947 till now, who gave up their future to prop these stupid Nawabs and Jinnahs and the vision of Orya Maqbool and whatnot, and ended up having nothing in their hands. But that's how life is. At times you're dealt a sort of a bad hand and you have to live with it. So my sympathy to many Pakistanis, I mean every person at a ground floor is their same. They just want to live under a peaceful roof, raise their kids. But it's the morphine of extremism, religion, Islam, and Jinnah and Orya Maqbool and all that stupid, artificial constructs of non-real social, spiritual, and political model that they were given has taken them to this point of doom. So my sympathy with them, but the sympathy is only for the crash of a political order. So what? The geography will stay, people will stay. Yeah, their operating system has to be reformatted. Their non-jihad and the mullahs have to be taken out. The madrasas have to be shut down. And they have to be told who they truly are, what their true heritage is, what their true value system is. And the de-Arabization of the Indian subcontinent has to happen. And probably it will start right after a little bit of a stability of this post-coronavirus world. So I would love to stop there. Would love to hear your thoughts. Have fun. Bye.